This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
All right, well, welcome to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, the voice of the music biz. I am your host, Tim Dolbear, coming to you live from Eclectica Studios in Austin, Texas. We are under a new format here at the station, and we also went through a move of station, studio, location, computers, microphones, things like that. So bear with us with anything that goes strange. It'll just make it more exciting and fun and that kind of thing for this episode. But the new format's really cool because we have now 18 minutes of talking time between commercial breaks, which is nice because I know every time we get into it and something gets exciting and going, the music starts playing and we go into commercial breaks. So we've expanded the time slots for our talking, and that is what you're going to experience, hopefully, from now on, including today. So to start things off, let me give a big thanks, a big shout out to our sponsors, Front End Audio, your ultimate pro audio dealer, and Source Connect by Source Element. They're the company that makes the HD, high-quality, awesome, sync-accurate video and audio software streaming solution, which is what I use to be able to connect into the station from where I'm at in Austin, Texas, and be able to do it all seamlessly. And as you can tell, the audio quality is absolutely fantastic, which is just me as an audio engineer. Of course, that's what I like. So being able to have that is wonderful as opposed to just calling in on the phone. And that Source Connect is the company, and Source Element is the software. Check it out if you ever need to do any ADR over air, over line. It replaces what ISDN lines used to do for us in the studio. So also, one last reminder, if you want to discuss with me having your project mixed or mastered by me, I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists of all budget ranges, and everybody gets my full and complete attention and expertise and experience. So please check out timdolbear.com, and you can find out there about the one-song trial mix master, so there's no risk to you. You can find out what my style of mixing will be able to do to your project and hopefully be able to bring the vision out exactly how you want it. So check out timdolbear.com for that. All right, well, that was a lot I'm throwing at you. All that stuff is, of course, on the website where you're most likely at Intertalk Radio /Sound Experience. So I'm going to jump straight into our guest today because I have a huge, long collection of questions and topics. This is a topic that's dear to my heart and is something I've really learned about over the last 6 or 7 years of being in business. I've been in business and doing this full-time since the late 90s. It wasn't until recently that I actually learned about this type of stuff. So this will be very cool. We're going to be talking about branding and building your business through all the different types of channels in which you can advertise or put out information on to reach potential clientele. So I decided to enlist the help of a fellow radio show host here at Intertalk Radio, Scott Robertson. He is the host of May the Best Brand Win here on Intertalk Radio. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Scott. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, Tim. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
You know what? Why don't you give us a little bit of your background and your history and stuff, instead of me just reading off the pages I have in front of me. I'd love to learn about you from you.
There you go. Well, it's my favorite subject, and now I'm going to talk to you about me. It's very exciting. Let's see. So I guess before I was anything, I was a musician. I'm a bass player. I play guitar. I grew up with music. I wanted to be a rock star. My parents didn't want to fund the rock star path, as some imagine that, some don't. And so I went into advertising, marketing, branding, got my journalism degree, and I basically have 26 years of experience doing everything related to marketing communications. Both for companies, I've worked with startup companies, I've worked with retail companies, with business to business, business to consumer companies, pretty much everything. And I've worked for NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants, for about 11 years as a director of marketing communications. That was fun. Got a lot of music experience, of course, which was dream job for bass player from Missouri. So It was awesome. And it's and I opened up my own firm, Robertson Communications, about 5 years ago, and it's been growing strong and doing the Lord's work out there, trying to keep the marketing's kind of a disease in the wrong hands, and so I try to keep my clients from doing anything too dumb out there. A lot of fun.
Exactly. Which is one reason I wanted you to have Beyond here. When I get to go, I'm so blessed where I get to go and teach at various different schools, which helps me learn at the same time and regurgitate the information to people. And I'm always talking about branding and presenting yourself and building your business because, and this is the first part I want to kind of get into with you, is the majority of people who start studios and have studios or in school to become an audio engineer, anything that falls in that kind of realm, you don't have a business background in this. You know, in the 70s and in the 80s, you were in a band and a bunch of your buddies were like, man, I don't like having this job, it sucks having to work 9 to 5. I'm working construction. Why don't we just open up a music store? We'll be able to get gear for free. And so all these mom and pop stores all built up and started because of the fact that these musicians just, hey, this will be a cool job. Let's start our own store and we'll sell to all of our friends. And that ran its course through the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s before big box stores really took over because they didn't have a business degree behind them. And now I'm seeing the same thing in the recording studio business. People are like, well, I bought some recording gear for my house, so why don't I just open up a business and all my friends will record here? And there's no business background or foundation behind it. So let's start with, what is a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. To me, and obviously I'll give you my opinion on it. You probably line up 10 different marketers and branding professionals in the room. You're going to get 11 different responses on the question. So, because some people will be indecisive. But I would say if you're going to talk about branding, the next word out of your mouth needs to be emotion. I think, branding was actually created by Procter & Gamble, the soap company. And it was actually kind of a, back in the day, it was an experiment. They experimented and basically said, we believe that it's possible to attach human-like emotions to non-human things, to soap.
Okay.
And no one in the industry believed him. There's actually a very funny episode of the show Mad Men where they take a poke at Procter and Gamble and some of their and branding, and they kind of laugh and they're like, branding, that stuff's that's a bunch of smoke. Right. That's never going to catch on. And hundreds and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars later, obviously, branding is why we buy things, but it has a great deal to do. I think a lot of people mess it up because they. I kind of think of branding kind of like self-defense, almost like karate. It's like a lot of people say, well, we're gonna have our brand and we're gonna go to battle and we're gonna kind of win against our opponent, that kind of thing. But it's really more like Aikido. It's really more like using the opponent, or in this case who you're trying to reach, that person's energy, sort of using the maximum amount of their energy and the least amount of yours. And if you and kind of what I mean by that is like Apple is a great example. Anytime you talk about branding, Apple is a fantastic example. And branding, Apple's tagline is "You're more powerful than you think." 2 personal pronouns in that, right? They've pulled themselves completely out of it. They don't have to say how great they are. They could easily say, by the way, we are the most valuable company on the earth. In the history of the world, nobody's ever had more money than us.
Right.
We've, we have more money than the United States of America has.
Right.
We have more than the country has. So it's like those are big statements. They don't use any of them. Instead they say you're more powerful than you think. They put the energy back to you, because this whole theater that we kind of play in branding takes place inside the consumer's mind. What we ultimately want is we all behave because of different things that we desire and different, and that kind of thing. All that goes on in our minds. Great branders are able to say, okay, what does the consumer want? And I don't mean like on the surface level, but I mean like, emotionally, what are they seeking? Mm-hmm. And how can we tie what we're doing into what they're emotionally seeking? So just in the music space, I mean, it's typically, what's the consumer of a record, seeking? It can be a lot of things, but certainly different bands like, Green Day has a new album coming out. Green Day fans mm-hmm. like, they like it loud. They like it, to be irreverent. Green Day is all of that. They play into their brand, and they attract fans that are kind of looking to, revolt, and try to, I mean, everything they do is about kind of like putting your fist up and kind of putting your middle finger out to the man. I mean, that's their plan.
Right.
And they attract those kind of people. I love Green Day. I love the rebellious part of them.
Oh, yeah.
I love the melodic part of them. I love the fact that they can take 3 chords and they can just blow it out and do stuff that is never stale. Even though they play the same 3 chords, they can find. I mean, that's their genius, in my opinion. But in terms of a brand, emotionally, they know that there are people out there that are kind of pissed off, and they play to that. They play to that in a big way, probably because they're not too far away from that emotionally themselves. So it works for them.
So is a brand. Well, here I don't want to jump ahead on stuff. Let me kind of stay in these a couple things. Keep my thoughts together. So then, studio versus retail is basically service versus selling a service versus selling an actual physical product. How does it change? How does branding change when it comes to that?
Yeah, well, to me, obviously a studio. A lot of like you said, it's going to be very service oriented. It's going to be very reputation oriented, and one of the big emotions that's probably going on in a recording artist's mind when they're going into the studio is massive amount of fear. Right. I mean, there's a lot of fear when they walk, fear and anxiety, and also probably excitement, anxiety in the fact that they're going to create something and they're going to be going into the studio. But probably a lot of fear, especially if it's the first time with a producer or it's the first time, in that studio. So the brand needs to be, rooted in that. Whereas a retail establishment, probably not so much. It needs to be rooted more in, obviously people have, what we do as consumers is we kind of we fill in the gaps of sort of these I am statements in our mind, and we put products in there. So like just to go back to my Apple example, the reason that their branding works so brilliantly is the fact that if you have an I am statement that says I am powerful, or I am productive, or I am cool, or I am all these kind of things that you fill in, their brand statement works to complete your I am statement. And when it does that psychologically, they could charge any price they wanted to for it, because a human being will do whatever they need to do to complete that circle of the I am statement, right? Branding works at a very deep psychological level. If you do it correctly, it works. It works extremely, very, very deep stuff. And the mistakes that I see people make a lot of times is they think that their brand is just what they do. Hey, we're a recording studio. We have 24 tracks. We have this kind of thing. We have this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you do, but that's not the reason why people go there. And sometimes, and it's not like consumers will necessarily be connected to or even share the real reasons why we do things. I talk on my show all the time about the fact that our brains are still a very vast ocean of stuff that we don't completely understand, and that's either a threat or an opportunity. Right. I tend to look at it as an opportunity. I tend to look at it as you're trying to influence something that the people either may not be in contact with themselves. They couldn't tell you if they wanted to why they're doing what they're doing, and but just to kind of on a practical level, I think that what makes, back to your question, studio versus retail, Again, the studio brand is going to be based on, we provide a service that you can trust, a service that's that other people have used and you like their stuff, so therefore you would like our stuff, kind of stuff. And retail is going to be more about we're making a connection with you, and we're your source for all these kind of products that are going to make you a fantastic musician, that kind of thing. And and also, pricing comes into it. I think certainly at the retail level, it always has to. Yeah.
Now, I've always thought of myself, now I had the studio name, which is Eclectica Studios. We'll use myself as an example here.
Cool.
But
cool.
Over the last 6 years, I've switched everything around to try to be the focus of Tim Dolbear, myself, my name, is my brand. And everything points back to Tim Dolbear. Under the philosophy of, okay, Eclectica Studios, well, there's a million studios out there, but there's only one Tim Dolbear. And to bring forth the uniqueness, I've always sold myself, or I'm now selling myself as my brand. But it comes to mind now with talking to you that a brand is not only the company name, but it has to be the thing that comes after it also, which is the thing that involves the potential client, as well as piques their interest, describes you, but not in a way of describing you, more as a way of bringing them in. Kind of, am I making sense on that? Yeah,
absolutely. And I would just say, my only suggestion there is, the big shift that's really happened in branding is, when I came up and I learned about touch points and learned about all these, things, in terms of branding, there's been a big shift that's happened, and it's really the consumer is more in control than ever before. And brands, we've been on this kind of evolutionary shift, for a good long time. But here in 2016, the consumer has all the power in the world. They're carrying around a mobile device. They can walk into any retail store. They can price anything. They can source anything. They can do anything. So all of us that are trying to to sell to the consumer out there really have to play on their field, their terms,
okay,
their minds.
Hold that thought, because we're coming up on a break in 10 seconds or so, and we'll pick it up right from there. So remember where you're at, put a thumbtack in it, and great.
Sounds good, man.
Back. This is Tim Dolbear and Sound Experience, and we're being powered by Intertalk Radio. We'll be right back.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hey, it's Tracy Smith
and Beth Venus
of Girls Talk Rock, right here on the Intertalk Radio Network.
Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Okay, Beth, they know that, but we want you to know that the industry pro's choice is Silver Tiger Production.
SDP is a full-service production agency offering sound, lighting, installations, talent buying, staffing, backline equipment rental, and sales. Kapow!
It's everything in the entertainment performance industry. It's all at...
It's all that!
SilverTigerProduction.com.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
All right, welcome back to the second segment of Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, your voice of the music business. I am your host, Tim Dolbear, and we are on today with Scott Robertson, host of the radio show May the Best Brand Win, and we are talking about the business of getting yourself out there in this industry of recording and studios and sound. So, as we were talking, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking about kind of one of the biggest mistakes I see in branding is that folks are so excited to say, this is me and this is what I do, but it's not about you. It's about them. It's always about them. In 2016, we have lost the power to make it about us. There was a day, by the way, when you could kind of make it about you and people kind of had to come crawling to you. But day is not today anymore. The shift, all the power rests with the audience now. And maybe that's a better way to do it, But I'll give you an example from NAMM's perspective. When we were working with the brand of NAMM, and when I started, the brand of NAMM was the International Music Products Association.
Right.
It's descriptive. It's accurate. Right. That was the brand that I sort of inherited. Two really big problems with that. One was for an association, when you have a tagline like that and they used caps on the International Music Products Association, it creates a secondary acronym. And that acronym was IMPA. And
that's
nobody,
right, because their name already is an acronym. Yes.
Right. So nobody wanted nobody wanted to introduce themselves and go, "Hi, I'm from IMPA," and they're like, "Get out of my office! What are you doing?"
They make a pill for that.
Exactly. It sounded terrible. Actually, it was funny because some people on the board actually did want to move forward with IMPA, and I was like, that was a veto from me. I was like, that would be that's the worst idea in the history of bad ideas I've ever heard. So that didn't happen. But so what we decided to do was we said the problem with the brand is that it's descriptive and it's accurate, it's factual, but it doesn't have anything to do with the audience, right? And what we wanted to do was it's about them, right? The power in the brand exists out there with them, what they want to, be true. And what we noticed from the music products industry, by the way, the saying in the music products industry is that we could never get, the buyers and sellers of gear to agree on anything. We couldn't get them to agree to the 10 Commandments if Moses was buying drinks.
Right.
And it's like, and that is true. All of our surveys, said this, but there is one thing that they all share, and they all share the idea that by being in this industry, they make the world a little bit of a better place. They chose this industry, not the most profitable industry on the planet, for a larger reason than themselves. And they all share it. They all share a passion for music, for teaching kids music, for putting music into our world. And that passion was the baseball bat that we used to create the brand. We turned the brand around and got rid of the International Music Products Association, and we used Believe in Music because that was true. And somebody asked me years after we introduced it, they said, "Scott, when are you going to change it? When are you going to change that brand?" And I answered simply, I said, "When it is no longer true, that's when you change it."
Yeah.
When the people no longer, it was. That was the unifying force for an association, and that was the piece that we needed to use. But instead of making it just kind of factual, which is not wrong, by the way, there are so many accurate, factual brands out there, but they're only going to be so effective. If you want to go all the way, if you want to win like Apple wins, then you've got to be willing to take the risk and kind of go deep into people's brains a bit, and you need to, kind of unapologetically create something that they want to be, true about themselves. On the studio side of things, all musicians want their release to go well. They want a positive studio experience. I mean, you certainly know from talking to all the folks that you talk with, and all the musicians and producers that you work with, there's anxiety there, and working with you, Tim Dolbear dials back their anxiety. The fact that they've got a guy that has these, tremendous credentials and this tremendous talent and this tremendous skill that not everybody has, and you might not get, you might go to some other studio somewhere and you might not get the engineer that you want, depending on where your budget is and all those kind of things. And it's like, but those are the things. Those are the things that are going on in people's mind, and that's where the brand can really be set free. And if you and one of the things that I kind of preach is the idea of go deeper, go deeper. And I say that to my clients a lot too. I'm like, how can we go deeper? Where is this message, going to be its deepest point? Because again, like the Aikido analogy, you use the opponent's energy against them, and you don't have to use very much of your own at all. Branding is exactly like that.
So, give me an example of going deeper, if you would.
Yeah, well, for example, the NAMM example is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that our first attempt to create the brand, we created this thing called NAMM stands for you, because there was a confusion about what NAMM actually stood for. The NAMM. Kind of thing, and we said, "Oh, we'll make it NAMM stands for you," and that's about you, right? And it was good, it was okay. But then we should have gone deeper, and we eventually did go a little deeper. We did more research. We just, it just took us a little bit more time to get there. And then once we understood, I used to sit in my office and kind of go, what is, it was hard to find a point of agreement, right. for this very, kind of fragmented industry. But once we discovered it, we said, yeah, that's it. That's the piece that we can use, and of course, then it's up to the organization that's putting out the brand to be that thing. If you're gonna be the organization that says believe in music, then you got to be able to prove it. You got to be able to prove that you are that community, and NAMM's done a fantastic job of doing that. So it worked.
It sounds like a really creative process too, and working in the studios, being a musician, that should be something that all of us embrace, is the creativeness of coming up with that.
It is. It is. Exactly. It's a fun process. It is like writing a song. I will say that I get the same kind of charge from, sitting here looking at all my research and papers and stuff, and then coming up with something and having that aha moment. It's just like coming up with a good hook, and you're like, yeah, right. That totally works there. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So in studios, I started doing this full time in 1999, and over the first 5 years or so, I did various different advertising things. I've done stuff over the last 16 years where I sponsored events, even where it was like a battle of bands or a silent auction for someone who had passed away. I mean, all of these different things where I gave away studio time in exchange for my name recognition getting out there, and absolutely no type of advertising has ever worked for my gig, no matter what it was. I mean, we're talking I'd give away $1,000 worth of studio time. No one would friggin' show up for it. They'd just be like, meh. Whatever. And so we're in an industry where the only thing that works is word of mouth.
Yeah. I would
is
agree
a really tough thing for studios that are starting out. Any thoughts on that, suggestions, help on that?
Sure.
And then I'll share some of my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Advertising, we talked about Mad Men earlier in the show. There was a day when advertising was king, right? Advertising, the companies would say it and people would kind of follow it, right? But we talked about how the world has changed, right? It's kind of a Lord of the Rings kind of thing. The world has changed, and the change that we saw is the fact that consumers have this new power, and simply the fact that since we've grown up with advertising, it's lost a lot of effectiveness, across the board for a lot of different businesses. I look at it as as important, but in a supporting role. As I talk about in my show a lot, I don't think interrupting people from what they are trying to do with a message is the best way to always do it. I think it's a little bit better to kind of be the thing, be the content that they want, and then they'll be a little bit more receptive to that, But I think that, the integration of it is what I would definitely say. Word of mouth has always been the best since the beginning of time, because you've got trust. Marketing is about trust, and you trust people, and you trust people, and if they tell you, if they give you a recommendation, you're going to listen to that recommendation. Mainly because the reason it works is because it eases your fear. Right? We have fear about a decision, fear, anxiety. And then when somebody you trust, gives you a recommendation, it dials back your fear. Dialing back fear is pleasant for us psychologically, and therefore it's a very easy, it's much more comfortable for us at that point. And we, as human beings in our brains and stuff, we seek out comfort. Very documented in that area. So what I would say for but there's a vast palette of stuff that you can use, that studios can use, that bands can use, that brands can use. One of the most powerful things, I think, and the thing that has the metrics behind it is surprising to a lot of people, but email. Email is still very, very strong because it's, as long as it's good. I always say, as long as it's really good email. One of the best emails I get is from a photographer here in Orange County. I'm in Orange County, California. And he doesn't send out any words. He's a photographer. And he just sends out samples of, here's all the photos I shot this week for people. And it's just, and you can't not look at it because you're like, well, I'm really curious to see what these photos, and you're looking at it before you even know you're looking at it. And then you look at the photos, and I'm going to have to say I've referred this guy business because I like his photos. And then somebody says, I'm looking for a photographer. And guess who I'm thinking of first? I'm thinking of the guy who showed me his work. Email is designed, and somehow we got away from that. I think some companies get away from that, but it's like, show your work. It's about showing, it's about talking about who's doing business with you and showing why you're great. And in your own email, you're absolutely able to say that and show in a way that you're trying to say, hey, if you're looking for this kind of great work too, we'd love to be considered, that sort of thing. So I'm a fan of email, and I'm also a fan of social media for that reason. It's all. I mean, we can go off and talk about social media. I do think. Social media is great. It'd be great for studios in the sense that. Especially if you have celebrities in there, right? Because the same reason that you take a picture of a celebrity and you stick it on the wall, same reason a business does that. Social media amplifies that by, a lot more. Being able to say, hey, we had such and such artist, and we had Bruno Mars in to do some tracks this week, and that's kind of cool. And then people are like, oh wow, Bruno's in there. People, including musicians, always want to go where everybody else is, particularly people that they, may or may not be or considering they compete with, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, social media is the only thing that has worked for me. And my experience and where I've grown to over the last 15 years, I started with my website back in 96. So
wow.
I've always had a website. Yeah, I've always been very much of an online person as far as business. And social media, the way I've found works is you absolutely, or at least I don't sell anything. Right. All that I do is share stuff that's interesting and compelling. And every single thing, when you go to my Facebook page, you go to the studio's Facebook page, you go to my Instagram, my Tumblr, all of them all show stuff that are interesting, fun, different, creative, but there's never anything on there saying, buy something. But yet every single thing I do is calculated and thought about and twisted and moved around until everything's to point back to the brand. Everything's to point back to actually bring clientele in. And that's what works. Rarely I'll post a thing like, "Oh, my website's been updated. Go check it out," or "Hey, you might want to try doing this." A direct advertising. But if you go through my page, everything is there very deliberately pointing back to the work that I do, without ever saying, "Hey, hire me."
Yeah, absolutely.
And the occasional personal thing in there, too, so people realize you're a human being and not just a picture of a real machine spinning,
That's
personalness.
That all sounds great to me. I mean, believe me, I think a lot of people mess up social media. Big brands mess up social media all the time because they don't know what you just said. Because they get in and they just they've got this goose laying the golden eggs, and they're like, well, what if we cut this sucker open? I bet we can get all these things out of it. And it's like, dude, no.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely. I just to go back to your question, your question to open this up was about advertising, and I do think that again, I do think advertising does play a role. Advertising feels really good. If you're a marketer, things like social media you can't really control very well. Things like PR, public relations, getting the media to tell the story, really kind of maddening and difficult, and you have very little control over it, and it drives lesser men crazy. Believe me, advertising feels great because it's like it's every color that you want. It's every part of the message that you want. I mean, it's like a choose your own adventure book with your name on every page. I mean, it's like it's all about it. It feels really good, and I think that's why people like it because some of these other things, it makes marketers really, really nervous when they start to lose control, or control's a perception, but perceived control over the message. And advertising has a lot of good perceived control. It also can be used as a strong reinforcer. You can say things in advertising, hopefully ethically, always throw that out there. There are plenty of companies who don't, but I would, certainly advise that. But you can say pretty much anything you want within the boundaries of, the truth and ethics and that kind of thing. So I think it does play a role. Now, for recording studios, I could see it probably wouldn't go much further than awareness, and it certainly doesn't do that much to address the problems that we're talking about. The fact that, why word of mouth works so well in your business is because people are scared to death. They don't want to make a bad decision. There's a lot of things.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, we'll start back up with that right after this break. So thank you for listening to Sound Experience. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Girls are talking rock again.
And people are listening.
Today we're talking bands.
Let's talk promotion. Red Giant promo, graphics, EPKs, video, photos, social media, and brand building using content marketing.
But let's talk studio at CCMA, which is events, rehearsal, tour prep, piano, guitar, voice, rock band, lessons, workshops, and clinics. Yeah!
Both proud sponsors of Girls Talk Rock.
Well, get the lowdown on these services and contact me, Tracy, at girlstalkrock.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Sound Experience, the show that explores the vast world of audio production through the experiences of our guest and the ears of your host, mixing engineer and producer Tim Dolbear.
Hey, welcome back to Sound Experience, powered by Intertalk Radio, your voice of the music biz. We're on today talking about brands and getting your business out there and all the different things that we do battling to build our studio businesses or live sound business, any type of business that all of us are involved in when we talk about Sound Experience here. So one of the things I wanted to bring up before we run out of time, because our segments tend to go kind of quickly here, is I wanted to, hearing your commercial on the last commercial break, can you tell us about your show a little bit before we run out of time and I don't get to ask you about it this segment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's on every Friday, and, I basically dig into, a marketing communications related topic, and I always do a segment on who's winning and losing out there. That part of the show can just writes itself. There's so many, we just bear witness to so many problems, on across the marketing, spectrum. And so I call attention to those, and I try to give people some tips and some tricks to kind of do marketing a little bit better and have a little bit different perspective on it. And I invite everybody to check it out. It's a lot of fun. The world of marketing is always changing, and it's always different. Look. Neat stuff.
And there's about 25 back episodes on Intertalk Radio, and I've been going through them, streaming them, and learning as I go immensely. That's why I was like, I got to get them on here, because now, obviously, if we're Pepsi, we have Pepsi's budget, and we have Pepsi's product,
Yes.
But being an independent recording engineer or sound engineer, it's kind of a different ballgame. It really is. So that's what we're talking about today.
But I would say...
Yeah.
Oh, I would say one thing just about that too. Being big does not necessarily mean being smart.
Right.
Pepsi makes a lot of big, gigantic mistakes. With regular frequency. I mean, some of these companies.
I like Coke better too.
Yeah, I mean, look at Samsung. Look at Samsung right now. Samsung. Samsung's product literally last week showed up on the no-fly list. The FAA has banned their phone because they realized of the explosive potential of this phone. Now, baby, that is a product default, the likes of which I've never heard of before.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And they haven't even said, we're sorry. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, they have not said, by the way, we're sorry that our product, has blown up and caught so many cars on fire and hurt a kid this morning. And it's like, I just sit there, shake my head, and because you said we don't have Pepsi's budget. It's like, how about have a brain in your head? That's all it takes.
Yes.
To be able to, because anybody knows that they should be out there apologizing for what the hell's going on with their brand, and they are not.
Kidding.
And that's a mess, huge mess. And I talk about things like that on my show all the time too. But I think you wanted to get into something else. But that's
and actually kind of on the same thing. Since we don't have Pepsi's budget, but hopefully we're growing the brain to go with what we're doing. Let's talk. Good segue. Yeah, it was trash. Let's talk about music releases, because obviously a lot of people are also doing music and releasing either a single, which is how I tend to push people nowadays. We're back to the 50s, where the 1950s, where you record a single and release it, record another single and release it. Try to put out a new song once a month or every 6 weeks, so that way you're pushing it on social media and getting the exposure, and as soon as the buzz starts to wear off, you're ready with the next release, as opposed to recording an entire album's worth of material material over 2 years, release it, you have good buzz for 3 or 4 weeks, it drops off, and it's 2 years before you release anything else again because you already did your whole album. You can release an album when you have 12 singles done. Put them on an album, release that. But do singles every 6 weeks, a month to 6 weeks. But in the meantime, what advice do you have for getting a release out there? What are some of the channels that you see working and types of approach?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I would say, close to home is where you want to strike first. So, and a lot of people kind of gloss over that, and they're like, well, how do we get the whole country talking about it? It's like, no. How do we get our following talking about it? Because your following can be so incredibly powerful and so authentic in being able to share it with people that kind of touch their lives and that kind of stuff. They can be so powerful for you if you just let them. Word of mouth. And I would just say that those concentric circles, but that first concentric circle, the people that really love the band, that really kind of follow everything the band's doing, they need to be first. And then and second, and and third, and then we can worry about and pretty soon a larger percentage of the world is talking about it. But I would say next on that list would certainly be PR. I'm an accredited public relations professional. I love working with the media, and the reason I love working with the media is it's one of the only things besides other people that we trust. We trust the media. We trust them that if they're going to bring a recommendation for this record is good, or you should pick this up, or this if they're going to bring the message in with their channel, and they reach a lot more people than most people's channels do because they're in the business of reaching people, then I think that they can be a really strong partner. I'm always a fan of public relations in any strategy, again because of the trust factor. I would definitely say social media. It's absolutely got to be in there. Those are some of the things that I would say for a record release. But I would definitely say take care of the people that are closest to the band and make sure that you arm them with everything that they need to kind of share and recruit others, because the recruitment is going to come easier from folks that they already trust. Kind of like a virus.
Okay. Going back to the media connections, are you talking not just the news outlets, but stuff like reviewers and magazines and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan of getting things reviewed. I'm a fan of working with the press. I was a reporter for a short period of time. I've always hung on to my appreciation for the job. I think it's hard to be a journalist, in the United States of America. Today it's tougher because there's a lot more financial pressure to keep outlets alive. There's a lot more, and that can lead to decisions about what gets covered and that kind of thing, which are not necessarily in the journalist's hands. But I always take care of the press, obviously because I believe that if you take care of the press, if you help them do their job, if you give them something great, then they're going to be there to pay that forward with you, and and it's going to be a good relationship.
Great. Back to social media then. So suggestions on targeting the right audiences. Now I've tried, for instance, even though I say advertising doesn't work, every once in a while I'll try it again, and it doesn't work. I did, for instance,
feels good though.
I am the definition of insanity. Back in March, when we had South by Southwest come through here, I decided there was a company approached me about doing an ad campaign on Instagram. There would only be 2 studios in Central Texas that were going to be allowed to do this, so it would be very good coverage. It would be all with the correct tag words and everything for South by Southwest music. Anyone who's coming to this whole thing would see on their feed my studio information, basically. A thing that we had, they did up 4 or 5 ads. Did not work at all. Not normally when I advertise, I get people hitting me up to hire them. Hey, do you have any jobs at your studio? Yeah. That's the only thing that ever comes from advertising. But from this, I actually got nothing. I could see the people who liked it, and it was like, a lady in Russia stripper, and some kid who plays baseball on an elementary, school, grounds play. All his pictures were like he's 12, so it didn't actually target the people I wanted to target, even though everything this company did and everything I did with keywords and such were to target the correct people, yet none of them seem to have gotten targeted.
Yeah.
Well,
here's my experience with sponsored posts. I don't like them. I don't. Sorry, Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry, everybody else. I think that people. Honestly, I think they're very dangerous to the medium of social media. I think that social media exists because it was a place that you could go where marketing wasn't, right? For a short period of time. Right. And then marketing kind of came in, and it's like whatever pool everybody's swimming in and having a big pool party. It's like a bunch of people. Marketing shows up and pees in it. And then everybody's like, "Oh, I don't want to be in that pool anymore because there's a bunch of urine there." And then people are like, "Okay, well, let's find this pool over here. Let's go over to Instagram." And marketing's like,
exactly.
"Wow, awesome. Let's pee in that next." And then they just keep peeing in all the pools, right? That's what marketing does. Marketing ruins actual communications. That's its purpose in life. So I always advise my clients. Don't be the people peeing in the pool. Nobody wants you there. And I advise my clients. I say, just so you know, nobody has asked for you to be here. Nobody has requested you to be here. Nobody actually wants you here. If you're going to sponsor your way into somebody's feed, you better do so with the reverence and the humbleness that I mean, it would take some masterful copywriting to make that work the right way. And what you better have is something that you're sure everybody wants. I mean, you better have something that is exactly perfect and exactly great. Otherwise, some people say, interrupting somebody's social feed is like going over their house during a Super Bowl party, and everybody's watching so much of the game, and you're like, wait a minute, I just want to show you some slides from my last vacation. No, seriously, it's going to be great. I know. You want to see Peyton Manning. I know you're going to be excited. This is a great one. This is me by the waterfall. See it as you can, and people are like, I want to punch you. It's completely inappropriate. Is how I'll say it, and there's no way that it's ever going to be appropriate. Marketers everywhere need to listen up and just go. The fact that sponsored posts, it starts with the fundamental realization that nobody has asked for you to be there. They would go on their lives and be just as happy if they never heard from the brand at all. Right there,
exactly.
And that's critically important. I think people lose that on social media. So my only experience on sponsored posts was actually back in the day when I was working at NAMM, we were going to do we had a public day on the summer NAMM show in Nashville, and we said, well, let's open this sucker up. Lots of musicians in Nashville. Let's sell tickets, and we'll do a Facebook campaign to sponsor it. And Facebook assured me, through their emails, because I never talked to anybody actually, but they assured me that the people we were getting in the Nashville area, in Nashville, Tennessee, we were going after people who said on their own profiles, self-admission, that they played guitar, they were interested in playing, piano, they played bass, they were a singer, they were all these things. So you would think pretty targeted, geo-targeted, interest targeted, should work like a charm, right? Tickets were $20. Would you like to guess how many tickets that wonderful and majestic, magical marketing campaign sold?
From my experience, zero.
Zero would be the correct answer. So I went in front of the NAMM board of directors, and I go, I spent $5,000 on Facebook, and guess what I got? Nothing. Yep. Literally nothing. And so that, and believe me, as a marketer, you get burned a few times like that, and you're like, well, I'm done here. That's not that's not ever coming up in my client recommendations again, that kind of thing. And I know some larger brands can, people kind of pay for it when they don't have anything interesting enough to penetrate the feed with, and I think you should just work on being interesting. but like you're doing, show the things that your feed's doing are doing the right things. If there's studios out there listening, talk about who's coming into the studio. Our culture is obsessed with celebrity. If I had celebrities coming into my office every day, oh my God, I'd be shooting those photos off everywhere because people are interested in what celebrities are doing. I don't know why that is. We are interested in the Kardashians, and they are the least interesting human beings in the history of humanity to me.
Exactly.
They are not interesting at all. There's not enough intelligence there to open a doorknob, and yet people, multi-million-dollar, empires, created by this. That's how obsessed with celebrity we are. So if you're a studio and you're working with, and you have celebrities coming in, I'd get a picture out there, get some tagging going on that, and I would be talking about what celebrities are coming in. And celebrities, here's a dirty little secret, celebrities look at what other celebrities are doing. Just so you know. And they're all followers. They all will follow you to the place where all the studio, where the artists were seen last. I wish it wasn't true, but that is the truth.
Yep. I have an interesting situation where, because now I'm 99% of what I do is mixing. I only do a couple small sessions a month where there's actual people here.
Cool.
For instance, right now I have nine albums I'm working on mixing, and no one's here. So when I take pictures, it's become very, very difficult to find interesting things. Now, if you take pictures of gear, all that you're going to attract is other people exactly like you or exactly like me who are into gear, and those are people who would absolutely never hire me because they actually want my job. And so it's always been interesting to try to figure out what to post that's interesting, that gets the story out there of this is what I do. And keep it interesting when the subject matter is literally just myself and a bunch of knobs. And, not meaning stupid people knobs, meaning actual, gear equipment knobs. You can only take so many pictures of those and keep it exciting. Ooh, I'll put a blue light on it today. Ooh.
I think the band. I think a bunch of knobs is opening up at Coachella this year, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go, a bunch of knobs. That's awesome. All right, well, we're down to our last minute, so that was a perfect way to end it right there, too. Wow, the information you have is fantastic. So I do invite everyone to check out your show on intertalkradio.com and start backtracking going through the subjects and stuff. I've learned something from every single one I've listened to, so I really appreciate all that you've done, not to mention being on the show today and sharing with us today. So
man, thanks for having me. It's been really cool, and good marketing out there to everybody. Hope it's going well. So I'll be out there in the Intertalk airwaves stirring it up, I'm sure.
Cool. And people can send you questions also?
Yeah. Just you can find my website. I'm just at Scott at robertsoncom2ms.com. Easy to find, and I'm out there, so shoot me an email.
Great, and there's links also through the Intertalk Radio website. When you click on his show, you'll see his page and see the information.
That's right.
Just like on my page right now where you're at, you'll see links to my blog as well as timdolbear.com and everything else. So reach out to me, and I thank you so very much for spending this time with me. Now, go make some music.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al DiMeola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.